morning, everyone. Good morning. It's a great honor for me to be here at Outlaw's Bridge Universalist Church today. I'm really excited to be here, and I want to thank some people who made this event possible. First up, I want to thank my dear friend David Kuntz for thinking of this idea and referring me to Reverend Claudia. I know Reverend Claudia is not here today, but I want to thank her for inviting me, and Anne for giving me all the information I needed and answering a gazillion questions that I was emailing her about. And Peggy, where is she? Peggy right there. Thank you for publicizing the event. I really appreciate it. And I thank everyone for coming here. It's a nice Sunday morning. You could have been someplace else doing something else, but you chose to come here and attend my talk. I truly appreciate it. A few points before I start my talk. With the intention of keeping the flow of my presentation going, I would request that you save all your questions till the end of my talk, and I will try my best to answer them. And if you still have some questions, I will be available. I'll stay here for a few minutes after the service so we can talk. And sometimes during the course of my talk, I will be quoting some Sanskrit verses. Sanskrit is an ancient Indian language. Now, by no means do I expect you to understand Sanskrit. I will give you the English translation, but I will quote the Sanskrit verses just so you know that it's not something that I am cooking up. It is coming from the authorized scriptures. And I will be using some terms which you probably will be hearing it for the first time. And if you don't get anything, just let me know and I will be more than happy to explain it. Shall we start? The theme for my today's talk is Krishna is the goal, devotion is the means. So that is a beautiful picture of Krishna up there that you see. Krishna is the name of God, which means all attractive. Now God is infinite and he has innumerable names. I know Christians call him Christ, Jews call him Jehovah, Muslims call him Allah. So he has so many names, and Krishna happens to be one of his names, which means all attractive. I'd like to dedicate my presentation today to my beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He is the founder of an international religious organization called ISKCON, which stands for International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When Reverend Claudia called me about 2 months ago, one Saturday evening, she told me to talk about my spiritual beliefs and practices. My spiritual beliefs are deeply rooted in the holy scripture called Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan means God, Gita means song. So Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of God, and this was spoken by the Supreme Lord Krishna himself about 5,000 years ago to one of his devotees called Arjuna. Are you able to see the slides there? If not, maybe we need to switch. The very first phrase of Vedanta Sutras, which is a book of knowledge, starts with the phrase Atato Brahma Jignasa, which means now that you have born in this human form of life, go and inquire about the absolute. Human life is meant for inquiring. And I know most of us, we are very inquisitive as humans, especially the younger kids. They are constantly asking questions, why this, why that, how, when. And we always want to know about so many things, about economy, about politics, about religion, culture, sports, entertainment. But the scriptures instruct us that human life is meant for relevant inquiry. Now, what makes an inquiry a relevant inquiry? Relevant inquiries are those which help us understand the true nature of life and realize what the real problems of life are and find the solutions for those problems. So in my talk today, for the next few minutes, I will be focusing on 5 such relevant inquiries. Number 1, who am I? Number 2, who is God? 3, where did I come from? 4, where am I going next? And 5, what is the goal of human life? So first up, we'll talk about who am I? It seems like a very simple and straightforward question, right? So if I had to ask, who are you? Who do you think you are? Any answers? I want this to be a little bit more interactive. There is no wrong answer, so you can say whatever you want to say.
Consciousness.
Sorry?
Consciousness.
Consciousness. Any other answers?
Yeah, the combination of DNA and factors from the environment.
Okay. Any other answers? Sorry? Oh, what of the universe?
Child.
Okay. Child of the universe. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm a spiritual being having a human experience.
Nicely said. Okay. Now let's see what Krishna has to say about who we are. How does he reveal our identity in Bhagavad Gita? In chapter 2, verse number 13, Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati, which means as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Just what you were saying, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. So Krishna is saying, we are not the body. I am not what you see externally. I am a spirit soul, and so are you, each one of you. And we see it is quite evident that our body is changing every single moment. We were this tiny little baby when we were born, then we became a young child, then we grew into a young adult, and then a grown-up man, and then an old man, and then finally there comes a point where the body is so useless that it gets destroyed, and at that point the soul leaves this body and takes on another body and goes through that journey, and then when that ends it takes on another body. So it's going through this cycle of, like you said, spiritual beings going through different experiences, and in this life we happen to be going through the human journey. Can someone tell me what is the difference between those two pictures? The one that you see up there and the one below? Any guesses?
The dark clothing in the lower one versus the colorful top.
Okay. Okay.
I don't see any men in the bottom.
Okay.
It looks like the bottom one is a funeral.
Funeral, right? Getting there. So up there, that man is having a great time with his family and friends, enjoying life. And here in the picture below, he's passed away and the same group of family and friends are mourning his death. So what is the difference between the person living there and the person who is dead here? It is still the same body, the heart is there, eyes, nose, all body parts are still intact, but earlier he was living and now he is dead. So what happened? What is the difference between a living body and a dead body?
The soul.
Exactly. So the moment the soul leaves the body, a body that was functioning so well and doing so many things becomes useless. So soul is the living life force that is responsible for all the things that you are capable of doing and experiencing within this body. In the same chapter, chapter 2, another verse, verse number 22, Krishna says, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Just like I'm wearing this cream-colored sweater and a skirt today, now just for example, think that this is the only pair of clothes I have, and that is not true by any means. But just imagine that this is the only pair that I have, and day in and day out, I continue to wear just this clothes. What happens over a period of time? It wears out, and it'll tear. So maybe I still don't want to give up. After it tears, I'll just give a stitch here, give a stitch there, mend it some, and I'll continue to wear it for a few more days. And then what happens? It gets to a point that I cannot mend it anymore. I just have to discard it. It is unfit for my use. So I'll discard this cloth, I'll go to the store, buy me a new pair of clothes and wear that. Now just because I discarded this pair of clothes and wore a new pair of clothes, am I a different person? No. I am still the same person, it's just that when this became useless for me to wear, I discarded it and I took a new pair of clothes. So Krishna is saying, just like you discard your old garments and put on new garments, the soul discards the old and useless body and takes on a new body and continues its journey. So that's very briefly about who am I. Now let's answer the next question. Who is God? Now before we answer who is God, let's answer another fundamental question. Is there a God? Does God exist? Everything that we see around us is created by somebody. This mouse was created by somebody. This laptop was designed and manufactured by somebody somewhere. And the little baby, it was created by his father and mother uniting. So everything that we see was created by somebody. So in that case, who created this? Such a beautiful natural landscape. How about this one? Another beautiful piece of natural landscape. This, such a well-functioning planetary system. What you see, a little dot here, is Earth, in which we are all present right now. If I just throw this pen, what happened? It fell down. Why did it fall down? Gravity. A simple, lightweight pen of this could not stay up in the air. As soon as I threw it, it fell down. How come such a huge Earth is floating in the space? Is gravity not applicable there? And Earth is just one of the planets. There are 9 planets in our solar system. And our sun is one of the millions of suns. And then what you see up here, millions and gazillions of universes and galaxies. Who created all this? Even for seemingly simple things, there is a creator. So where there is a design, there is a designer. Where there is creation, there is a creator. Regardless of whether a person is religious or not religious, even just thinking logically, any rational man should be able to conclude that there is God. Regardless of what you call him, Krishna, Christ, Buddha, Jehovah, Allah, there is no way that one can deny the existence of the supreme intelligence that is responsible for such a great creation. And God has so many different characteristics. He is absolute, He is all-encompassing. So Krishna says He is omnipotent, He is all-pervading, He is in you, He is in Peggy, He is in me, He is in Jimmy, He is in everybody as the super soul, as Paramatma. He knows everything. He is all-pervading and He is all-knowing. He is witnessing all that we think, all that we do, all that we say. There is no escaping. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 8, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. So He is the source of entire creation. Elsewhere He says, Sarvaloka Maheshwara, which means I am the proprietor of everything. And He says He is Suhradam, which means He is the well-wisher of all living entities. So those are just few of the innumerable, infinite characteristics of the Supreme Lord. Now the next question we move on to is, where did I come from? Now before you look at this, we start answering this, let me use an analogy to drive my point across. Let's take for example the United States of America. We have the government running the entire place, right? The federal government. And now there are so many departments to maintain everything and to keep everything going smoothly. There is the Defense Department, Finance Department, External Affairs Department, there is the Legal Department, the Police Department, and in fact on our way today driving to the church, we saw one huge prison house. So there are all these different departments. Now, the police department puts in place some prison houses and maintains it, right? Now, how come a majority of the population are outside of the prison and a small percentage of the population is within the prison? They are put behind the bars. Now, why is it that some people are put behind the bars and the others are leading a free life outside? Why were they put behind the bars and punished? They did something wrong, right? So the government has put some rules and laws in place. We are all expected to be what? Law-abiding citizens. So as long as you live by the law and you follow all the rules, you have a certain amount of freedom and you can enjoy a happy free life. But the very moment that you break a law and do something wrong, you are held captive and put behind the bars and punished accordingly, depending on the extent of the mistake that one has committed. Now thinking of that, let's draw some parallels. Where did we actually come from? Now God's creation is, like just Krishna said, I am the source of both spiritual and the material worlds. The scriptures say 3/4 of God's creation is spiritual world and 1/4 of God's creation is material world. As you can see there at the bottom, spiritual world is our eternal home where we actually originally belong to. And the characteristics of the spiritual world, it is that Sat, Chit and Ananda. It is all blissful, it is eternal, and there are no miseries in that place. It's full of knowledge. So we actually belong to that spiritual world where one can experience complete true freedom and happiness. Now how come we came from a place like this to a place like this, which is the material world which we are in right now? We turned our back to the God, just like what happens here. You break a law, you do something wrong, then you get sent to the prison house. So we were in the spiritual world, we turned our back to the God. By intrinsically our nature is to serve God. But we wanted to be the master. By nature we are to be enjoyed, but we wanted to be the enjoyers. We have this little amount of free will due to which we wanted to have our sense gratification and enjoy life. And God, being the perfect gentleman that He is, He says, okay, if that is what you want, then I will give you the facility to enjoy what you want and fulfill your desires. So that is how we come from the spiritual world to the material world, but we don't know that material world, Krishna says, is two things. You see at the bottom here? In chapter 8, verse 15, Krishna says, material world is two things. One, it's a place of miseries. Two, it's temporary, unlike the spiritual world. Now we may think that we are happy, but we are not really happy. A person in the prison house may think, oh, they are giving me 2 slices of bread. I have a uniform to wear. I have a little place where I can sleep on. If he thinks that is happiness, that is not really happiness. He needs to realize that the true happiness is in the outside world where you can do what you want to do and be free. So we are falsely thinking that we are experiencing happiness here, but this is not the true happiness. The real happiness is in spiritual world, not here. Krishna calls it a place of miseries and temporary. And he also says, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. In chapter 13, verse 9, Krishna says, any living being in this world is characterized by 4 things: birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, birth itself is a miserable experience. For 9 months, We stay in the mother's womb, which is such a small, compact, tiny place. It's miserable. The little worms are biting the child. So the birth itself is a miserable experience. And then once we come into this world, death is guaranteed. The moment we are born, the clock is ticking. So no matter, our scientists are trying to find life on another planets, but they have not been able to stop death on this planet. And the other one, old age. Regardless of what you do, no amount of Botox, no amount of plastic surgery is going to keep one from growing old. It's the fact of life. And the other is diseases. How much of advancement we've made in our medical science, so much of technological advancement, and in spite of that, nature continuously challenges with so many variety of chronic diseases. Cancer, AIDS, so many different things. And we are constantly fighting it in spite of our best efforts. So now that we've answered, where did I come from? The next logical question is, okay, I'm here, where am I going next? The scriptures indicate there are 8,400,000 different species of life. There is the reptile family, aquatic family, bird family, insect family, tree family, human species, so many species, so many that we cannot even see. So 8,400,000 different species, and our soul could be taking on any one of these bodies. But the specific type of body that the soul gets assigned by the nature under the supervision of the Supreme Lord depends on two things. What does Krishna say? So Krishna says in chapter 8 verse 6, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti. Son of Kunti is Arjuna, to whom Krishna is speaking. That state he will attain without fail. So of the two things, one thing is at the time of death is the most important crucial point. Whatever one thinks at that point of time when the soul leaves the body, the soul takes on that particular body in his next life. And the other thing is the kind of life that you've led now, the kind of activities that you've done. So depending on the kind of life that you've led and depending on your consciousness or the state of mind at the time of death, nature assigns the next body under the supervision of the Lord. So that cycle that you see is the cycle of birth and death. It's just going from one species to another, from human to aquatic, to a tree, to a butterfly, to a bird, to a beast. It could be so much. The soul is continuously going through the cycle of birth and death. But do we have to be a part of this cycle of birth and death perpetually? Is there an escape route? How can we get out of this? That will answer in the next question. What is the goal of human life? Any answers? What do you think, according to you, is the goal of human life?
Make the world a better place.
To make the world a better place, okay. Any other answer?
Purify our soul,
Purify our soul.
raise our consciousness.
Raise our consciousness, okay. Anything else? Is it making money? Is it fame? Is it power? Is it relationships? Family, friends? Now don't get me wrong, you do need some amount of money to sustain your living. You do need to eat, you want a place to live, you have to be able to take care of your family and yourself. You do need family and friends to sustain your life. We are a social animal. But the scriptures say that these should not be the only goal of life. These should not be the ultimate purpose of life. These you pursue only as much as is needed to sustain your life while you are here. Because the problem with these is two things. One, there is never enough. Hankering and lamentation. we are constantly hankering for more and more and more and more. There is no end. And as you get more and more and more, you have the fear of losing it. Oh my God, how is it? What if I lose it? What if somebody comes and steals it? There is that fear of losing. And then when you do lose it, now death is the ultimate killer. I mean, at the time of death, no amount, doesn't matter how much of a fat bank balance you have, how big of a house you have, what a luxurious car you have, how many academic degrees you have, you lose everything at the time of death. So there is always that fear of losing, and when you lose it, what happens? You lament. So the thing in pursuing these as the goal is two things. There is always hankering for more, and when you lose it, you lament for it. So the scriptures say you should be aspiring for that which when achieved, there will be no more hankering and there will be no more lamentation. And what is that ultimate goal? Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the goal. Just few slides back, what did we say? Where did we come from? From the spiritual world. That is our eternal home. So our goal should be to go back to our home, the spiritual world. So the ultimate goal of life, Krishna says, should be to go back to home, back to Godhead, achieving the love of God. And anytime we set a goal in place, the next thing is we put a plan of action. So this is my goal, how am I going to achieve my goal? And Krishna explains that as well. So devotion is the means, how we achieve it. In chapter 18, verse 64, Krishna says to Arjuna, because you are my very dear friend, I will reveal to you the most confidential instruction which will be of the utmost benefit to you. And in the very next verse, he reveals that supreme instruction. He says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. This is the promise from the Supreme Lord himself. And he is saying that if you always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me, you will come to me without fail. And all these are acts of devotion. So what could we be doing to lead a more devotional life? Of course, worshipping God, prayer. You could be worshipping at your home, or you could be, that is what you're doing here this morning, coming to a place of worship called church, and we are praying together as a group. And chanting the holy names of the Lord. So here, have the prayer beads, and this is made from tulsi, which is the holy basil, and it's made of 108 beads. And the transcendental chant recommended in the scripture for this age to realize God and go back to home is a 16-word transcendental chant, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we chant that on this prayer beads. That is a way of thinking God, one of the ways of thinking God and directly connecting with God. So we could be chanting, that is a method of devotion, studying the scriptures, gaining the true knowledge, understanding things as they are, and offering everything to God, especially the food that we eat. I know 2 weeks back when I was here, we had a nice lunch after our service, and what did we all do before having our lunch? We held our hands and said our prayers. That is an act of devotion. So we offer our food and offer everything as a matter of fact to God. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually tells what can be offered to him. We eat only that which is offered to God, and Krishna says what can be offered to him, and that is grains, milk and milk products, vegetables, fruits. So that is why you see most people who are spiritual seekers are vegetarians. They offer that to God, which God says he accepts it. So we offer that and accepts it as transcendental sacred food. So these are just some of the ways of how one can practice a devotional life. So my dear friends, I want to leave you with a story. This story is called Dr. Frog. Interesting, right? Dr. Frog. There was a little well, and in that little well, there were two frogs. Both of them were good friends, and one of the two frogs was bored of living in the same well for so long, he just needed a break. We all need a break from time to time, right? We want to escape from our busy lives. So what do we do when we want to take a break? We go on a vacation. So this one frog friend of ours wanted to go on a vacation. And you know where he went to the vacation? He went to the great Atlantic Ocean. So the frog, coming from the little well that he is in, he was awestruck by the gigantic Atlantic Ocean. He was mesmerized by the vastness of the ocean and the blue of the water. So he had a great time, he had a lot of fun, but like they say, all good things must come to an end. So his vacation ended, and reluctantly he came back, returned to his little well. This other friend of his who was in the well, he was super excited to see his friend back. So he said, "Oh, you're back, great. How was your vacation? Where did you go? Tell me all about it." So he says, "I went to the Atlantic Ocean." And this other frog says, "Atlantic Ocean? What is that?" And this guy says, "Oh, it's a huge mass of body of water." And he says, "Really? Is it so huge? How huge is it? Is it twice the size of our well?" He says, No, it's much bigger." And he says, "Really? So is it 5 times the size of our well?" He says, "No, much bigger." He's getting frustrated. So the other says, "Is it 10 times bigger?" He says, "No, even bigger." And the other guy says, "Okay, 100 times bigger?" So this is the Dr. Frog. We call him Dr. Frog because he has a PhD. He knows all that is only within the small little well that he is in. So he's our Dr. Frog, and Dr. Frog is trying to understand the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean in relation to the little well that he is in. Many of us are like Dr. Frogs. We are trying to understand the greatness of the Supreme Creator, understand the unlimitedness of His creation, the beauty of His creation, the variety of the life forms, using our Dr. Frog's little tiny brain capacity, the limited knowledge that we have, and our imperfect sense perception that we have. And you know what? We are bound to be baffled just like Dr. Frog, and we will never be able to understand all these things with our limited knowledge. So, let us stop being like Dr. Frogs, and instead, let us turn to the pages of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is like this, just like the great Atlantic Ocean. Bhagavad Gita is the bottomless ocean filled full of knowledge. Krishna himself, the Creator himself, has written the manual of life for us. He is telling us who He is, who we are, what we need to be doing. Everything is in here. So let us stop being Dr. Frogs, and instead let us turn to the pages of Bhagavad Gita and understand the real problems of life and find the perfect solutions for our life and make our human life, which is a precious gift given by God, truly successful. I quote Mark chapter 8, verse 36. "For what shall it profiteth a man if he shall gain the whole world but loses his own soul?" Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aruna.
Dave, just a second. Before I take questions, I have a little something. Here are the handouts. You can take a copy and pass it. Take one. here is a Bhagavad Gita for you.
Thank you.
And Anne, I want to, if you would please accept a copy of Bhagavad Gita. You're welcome.
And Aruna, we'd like to give you a gift.
Okay, and I have a copy here. I know Reverend Claudia is not here. Maybe you can give it to her when she gets back. And if any of you need a copy of Bhagavad Gita, just let Dave know. And Dave, if you would email me their address, I will just mail a copy to you. So you'll be able to read through it. So thank you very much.
I'd like to give you a little present here. This is a book by Vernon Floyd Chandler.
Okay?
He was a minister here for about twice. He's an Army chaplain. He retired from the Army as a rank colonel. He was a chaplain for several prisons. He's a chaplain now in the VA hospital in Maine. And Ann gave me this book, and I read it. I found it very inspirational.
Thank you,
And
Dave.
so I'd like to give that to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
We gifted you.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions,
Yes, we do.
We know Judy.